Roll at the beginning of. Nice.
Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us. We're just going to give everyone a few minutes to trickle in, and then we'll get started. All right, let's give maybe 30 more seconds, and then we will dive into today's webinar. Thanks, everyone who's joined so far. All right, let's kick things off here. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. For those who may join us in a bit, we are recording, so that should be helpful. But really excited to go through some topics surrounding deepfakes and the future of online fraud, together with some amazing experts from the Verif team. So I'm sure, or I'm hopeful that most folks here are familiar with deepfakes. We at Verif have been seeing deepfakes for years, synthetically created images, pictures of folks that are not actually images that were taken with a camera or not real people, environments, things like that. As I mentioned, we've been seeing deepfakes for many, many years, really since the inception of Verif almost 9 years ago. And while this is not new technology, deepfakes are now easier to make and of a much higher quality. And so that's one of the reasons they're such a hot topic today. You can pop into ChatGPT or go to any kind of random website that touts its image generation capabilities and try to synthesize an identity with no real information, people, pictures, etc. So while fraudsters are more enabled and do have deeper level of access to a higher quality of this technology than ever before, we are enabled as well. Gen AI and deepfake technology are both the sword and the shield in this analogy. And deepfake detection is more than just analyzing a picture, seeing if it looks real and saying yes or no. We have hundreds of signals outside the image itself that we'll go through together with Lizzie and Vinny, our in-house experts. Things like device analytics, video, audio, pattern codes, dynamic ruling that create a really nice kind of system of orbit around deepfake detection technology and allows us to very easily detect, mitigate, and improve concurrently. Every time we see a deepfake, we get better. So today, we want to talk about what we're seeing, some of those detection and mitigation mechanisms, and where we see this technology going and what that means for businesses who are responsible for validating identities, onboarding honest users, and deflecting fraud to keep your business and the internet as safe as possible. So my name is Abe. I'll be your moderator today. I've been at Verif for just about 4.5 years, and today I lead our strategic team working with global companies, some of the biggest companies in the world, to defend against fraud and enable the onboarding of honest users. I'm joined by Lizzie and Vinny, both from the Verif team. Lizzie, why don't you start us off and introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Glad to be here and talk to you about the deepfakes and what we are seeing right now in the market. I'm product manager at Verif and have been here for 5 years fighting different kind of IDV fraud and working on it. So my main focuses are on how we are making automated and really accurate verification decisions, and also how we are packaging all of this into the nice products that we have.
Thanks, Lizzie. Over to you, Vinny.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vinny. I'm a strategic solutions engineer at Verif. I'm about to come up on my 3-year anniversary pretty soon, and it's been a great journey here. I help work alongside account executives, creating solutions to help our customers navigate some of their KYC and online identity problems. So I'm really excited to chat with you all today about the complexities with deepfakes. And we have a really exciting deck for you guys today.
Sweet. Thank you both. Two of the behind-the-scenes superstars that make so many of our partners successful. So really excited to have you both with us today. So just kind of setting the table here, as I mentioned, I think a lot of us are familiar with deepfakes conceptually and what they are, maybe even how to make one, but perhaps not with the impact that they're having on a global level. As always, we are seeing annual rises in fraud rates in general, year over year, about 20% currently. I think we saw a big year over year kind of chunky bump during the pandemic months, and folks were trapped at home. Technology, the pace of innovation was moving really fast. It gave people a lot of time and resources to get creative and try to defraud companies like Verif and our clients, of course. We're also seeing the majority of financial fraud labeled as identity fraud. There's a lot of fraud that can happen, outside of identity theft. Obviously, identity fraud is a focus for Verif. And the vast majority of all fraud that any financial services company might see, which is important because you are regulated companies, was identity fraud, which means 93% is kind of attackable with the tools we have at our disposal here. In terms of looking at 2023 as a year and looking at the many hundreds of millions, if not more, verifications and session data that we have at our disposal, we want to understand what percentage of folks globally are actually trying to commit fraud. In 2023, that was 6%, which is actually right on track with a lot of the individual metrics we see company to company, which makes sense, around the 6% fraudulent decline rate. Always important to keep accuracy high so that those numbers are real as well. But we do see about 6%, so a little less than 1 in every 10 verification attempt is an attempt to defraud a company or a provider. And then lastly, we see a lot of impersonation fraud. I think many of us are familiar with that example below of an employee paying out $25 million to someone that they believed was their CFO, when in fact it was actually just a pretty good deep fake. To the naked eye, that can be a really good way to fool someone. To an actual system, algorithmic system, we would have caught that pretty quickly. But it's scary. It can have a material impact on the bottom line of many different companies, especially regulated ones. And it's only getting more complex and easier to access. So let's move on to some actual examples that we see on a regular basis, and putting some context behind those numbers. And then Lizzie and Vinny, I'll definitely ask you for your thoughts here as well. Some examples, this is not totally comprehensive, but some kind of major and popular examples of deepfakes in the identity verification space. At Verif, for those who aren't familiar, we are a leader in the KYC identity verification, digital identity verification space. We work with many regulated companies who are obligated to comply with KYC, AML, and other forms of regulation that mandate that you check that a person is who they say they are. So we see a lot of face swaps. Ancillary face swaps can be really fun to make memes and presentations and things like that. They can also be used to try to take over someone's account and steal money from them, or just steal their identity in general. And because you are modifying a much smaller part of a given image, not the entire image, but just the face, or maybe just a portrait image on a document, a lot of other, defending folks in this space have trouble with that. We see a lot of face swaps and modification. Face matching itself is a really interesting technology in terms of how it works, and at least at Verif, outperforms the naked eye in terms of accuracy. And so we see a lot of, hey, the rest of the body is the same, but the facial features were changed, or hey, the rest of the document is real, but the face was kind of superimposed on an existing image, or physically pasted as well. That happens too. Lip syncing, big karaoke guy, so we like lip syncing, but in this context, maybe not as much. A lip syncing algorithm or system of algorithms would map a voice recording to a video and make it appear as if that person is saying something that we've never said. These are personally all over my social media. I see them all the time on X or on Instagram Reels, places like that. And it's really scary. It can also, for a company like Verif, who was early in going to market with asynchronous video verification on any device, one, allow a fraudster what they think may be a new avenue to fake us out, by making it look like, oh yeah, that person was talking and they were doing the identity verification session themselves. But it also gives us more data for our defense. Natural movement at an algorithmic, at a pixel level is very hard to emulate perfectly. And so it gives us more data and more mechanisms for defense too. We see lots of entirely fake documents. I'm sure folks have heard of only fakes. There are a lot of companies out there, or companies is probably a strong word, websites, groups of people that set up systems where you can just generate an ID online. They may call it Gen AI or things like that. And that's an example of an entirely fake document made using deepfake technology. We also have video manipulation. You may hear of that as an injection attack, or at Verif, we sometimes call them presentation attacks. Basically, the concept of injecting a pre-recorded or pre-made video into a live image capture system. At Verif, for example, most of our partners leverage our SDKs or our web flows, static uploads, a upload document button might be easy, but truly leaves the door wide open for fraud. And we see a lot of biometric spoofing techniques, facial synthetics, pre-made altered media, video overlays, etc., that are injected into a live camera and made to fool us or any provider or company into thinking that was a naturally and honestly recorded video. So those are some kind of pertinent examples of how we see deepfakes here at Verif come our way. Lizzie, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I think we are seeing a lot of those trends exactly like you mentioned. But what I wanted to bring out is also that maybe from we can see in the media that it's some new topic or something completely new that there has never been deepfakes before. And the past year there is way more. So in reality, what we have been here also 5 years, we have seen them for a long time. Yes, it will become more easier for the fraudsters to use different kinds of tools, but that is not something completely new. And probably this is what we see today. It might be that there are some other trends in the future.
Yep, totally agree. Vinny, what about you?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting as you see kind of over the past couple of years where you've had a lot of large amounts of data breaches. People use social media to put their information online. And now you have these really cheap and inexpensive tools where you can take all of this leaked information, take people's public, social media accounts, and be able to create synthetics or be an imposter and train models at a really low cost or even free with some open source technologies. So, deepfakes can be categorized really kind of into different groups. Obviously, the most headline grabbing one are videos, right? We've all seen probably videos of famous people like Tom Cruise being able to defraud people. And it's just because, those are the ones that are very effective because fraudsters are highly motivated, especially in this space that's regulated, where you have a lot of financial institutions, fintechs, where somebody can, gain a lot of profit and money by infiltrating their systems. And deepfakes have proven and will continue to be a really effective attack method for these people. So it's important to be vigilant.
Yeah, what did you think also that we see all the trends and also when I look at my product head, like how to fix all those things, then I can see two different categories of problems in reality. We have one is the faces, which is brought out here, but also our documents. So that in reality, the kind of new technologies that we have had a lot of the times work on faces, and we can generate really well the human face now by Gen AI, but maybe with the documents, it's a different topic that we cannot use exactly the same generative AI models there because the models there are not yet so good, so fraudsters cannot use them. But what they are using a lot is basically photoshopping, templating, and generating fake documents in bulks. So it's still basically gluing together, taking a generated AI face and putting it on top of documents. So just like, I think differentiation also on what we can see in our traffic and where this new technology is really seeing a big rise and where it's not yet. So that the faces are the new topic. The documents are not maybe generated exactly like faces are, but rather templates are used. So I think face generation has done huge improvements. Let's see what happens with documents in the future.
Excellent points, both of you, and I think it really shows the two sides of the problem that you are both closest to. Lizzie clearly on the kind of back-end detection, mitigation, automation side of looking at patterns and understanding how we can use tools like machine learning to repeatedly and predictably defend against these attacks. And then Vinny being closer to our partners and our clients. And I think you made an excellent point there. We have kind of enabled the pace of innovation of deepfakes to increase by putting so much information about ourselves online. You start to see these stories about companies like OpenAI using data from Reddit, for example, to train their models. You'd better bet there's a lot of PII and personal information, perhaps too much, on Reddit and on other places of the internet. So something very important to keep in mind as the pace of innovation continues to increase seemingly exponentially. Vinny, over to you.
Great. So, and going kind of off of Lizzie's topic of different levels of fraud, that's really the goal, right? Is always to protect against fraud and being able to have also a user experience that's very seamless. So the goal is always going to be to fight fraud. And today it's deepfakes. You know, we don't know what it's going to be in a couple of years from now, but we're going to have to think of what are the approaches that we're going to take to capture that and to prevent against that. So for Verif, the main approach that we like to encompass is a multi-layer defense strategy. And this is a very, simple strategy. I mean, going back to medieval times, if you had a castle, maybe you'd build a moat, right? You want to have different types of protections so that you're not relying on just one singular method to defend against bad actors. And behind all of these different systems that we have in place are scores of machine learning models that are purposely trained to work in collaboration with some of the other systems, really from an end-to-end perspective. So once the user is onboarding, whether it be an onboarding process or is going through the verification themselves actively, making sure that we're capturing a lot of data using these different systems together and providing something that can look at your verification from a holistic view. We're very lucky that we have the ability to train these models off of high quality data and very diverse of data. And we've only been really kind of in this KYC space for about really like 10 years, where we've had the ability to do online verification. So the trends are ever evolving. So when you think of the different systems and the layers that you have, we often like to talk about the use of biometrics and also having passive liveness, right? Those are attributes that we can be able to see a person, challenge the user, but also offer something that is very quick for them, that they can quickly just take a photo of themselves. Using live capture, burst images, these are things that our system can use as data points to take in to be able to make decisions. You'll hear the ability to look at cross-linking as well, right? When you think of somebody's getting verified today, they're a fraudster, what are we going to do when they come back in a couple of days, right? They've gotten declined, they're going to change their approach. And from our perspective, being able to look at patterns or similar attributes done previously to then dictate future outcomes, this can all go into that multi-layered approach to be able to take in these different elements from today, from previously, to look at risk. And I have to say, of course, there's a lot of great automated things that are happening, but really to get to this point, to build these systems, you have to have a really good collaborative team effort. And this is across many different stakeholders of the business, from your UX teams, your fraud teams, even legal, because we have to be conscious of the information that we use, how we hold this data, and being able to combine all of these different insights and also their expertise to create a really comprehensive approach to identity verification and to deepfakes has allowed us to really stay ahead of the curve. And with that, I think we should move over to some examples from some of the types of documents that we've actually seen when it comes to face swaps and different sort of fake documents that are out there. So I'll pass it over to Lizzie.
Yeah, so those are like some nice examples you guys can see of deepfakes that we have caught. And maybe if you look at all those one by one, they seem pretty good. You wouldn't understand that there is something fishy happening. But in reality, if you look all of them in bunch, you probably all of us see that there is something strange happening with the faces. So this is face swapping going on, one of the things Abe mentioned earlier. So you can see that they have tried to modify the face on the document into the face that is on the pictures. So those are kind of the things that we are seeing from the faces side. And let's go next to the next slide and talk about how we overall preventing it. So I brought one example that talks more about documents, and the similar things are happening also with the faces. So for example, what we are doing, we are looking at a lot of different data points. So yes, we have multiple defenses upon us. So you can see that, for example, in the cases of those two documents, we can see that there is wrong portrait on the one document. How we understand that there is wrong portrait, we rely a lot on visual checks. So whether they are our automation system looking at this, or whether it's our manual operation specialist looking at this, we rely also a lot on visuals of whether document background is right, whether the edges of the corners are right, whether the photo is in the right place, the face is in the right place, so everything like that. So how do we know everything regarding where the aspects of the document have to be? So we have internal document database, which has information about all the documents in the world that we are seeing coming into our system. And we have mapped down for all the documents how in reality the good documents look like, or real documents look like, and what are the kind of common patterns or problems that we are seeing. So we can use this ground truth to basically understand and compare it against. And what are the other things we are looking at? For example, signatures. A lot of the times there are problems with signatures being not real signatures. And even there is kind of common signatures that we sometimes see around because they have been used by some tools. Also, we have our internal fraud risk score models. So we use some scoring models that take in tons of data about the user behavior, about how long the session took, where they came in, what kind of documents they used. We have other machine learning models giving inputs into that risk score so that it can learn to detect the possible fraudsters. So you can see also in this case, the fraud risk score gave the hint that this might be a fraudulent session. So looking further, also we are using a cross-linking technology to make sure that we map the different sessions together that look similar. So we can see fraudsters working, of course, in patterns. So there are only really few, maybe individual fraudsters, but mostly they are groups doing something something like this. So we are using cross-linking for the faces, for the document data, for example, name and date of birth, to understand whether we have just seen some person who looks the same but has different name twice. So it raises a flag for us. And lastly, we look also in different kinds of document anomalies, that all the document on the data is right. So it's one of the main things also that fraudsters are not so smart as us yet, I think, on the data rules. So off to you, Vinny, on what we are doing to make sure we have continuous improvements.
Awesome. So as you can see, AI and machine learning are really core to our product. A lot of these, advanced technologies that we have today are really just often better than humans. But the systems haven't made it there yet, really across the board, right? So I think, we do ourselves a disservice if we didn't even mention that having human insight is also essential to encapsulating that multi-layered defense strategy that I was speaking about before, because with humans, they can have better understanding of context. They can identify these anomalies, and you create this sort of feedback loop. So when you come at this from a continuous improvement perspective, each of these different models that we're running on a verification session can have custom thresholds. Being able to change those and adjust them is very important to move with the trends that we're seeing. You can have customer-specific rules or region-specific rules so that you can offer a system that isn't just being able to look at, how are the verification sessions happening globally, but how are we doing on a specific level? Because fraud is not dynamic, or is dynamic rather. It's not something that's static. It's not just going to stay the way that it is. It's always changing. So we have to make sure that we're at the forefront of that by looking at these insights and being able to determine where do we move from here when we're seeing an increase or a changing in patterns. So it's very important to balance that aspect of using your machine learning models, using your AI, but also having that human insight, because, expertise takes a while to build up. And until we get to the day when AI models can be better than human beings when using contextual information, we'll see where we are then. But it will definitely be a very exciting world. But I think this is something that is done on a daily basis, improving your models, looking long term and figuring out where are the trends, and determining how do we have those conversations with our customers to ensure that they're prepared and they're ready and they're thinking ahead with us. So that's one of the benefits of partnering with someone that this is top of mind and thinking about what's next and what's after that.
Fantastic overview. Thank you both. I think the concept of fighting AI with AI is fascinating. It'll only continue to grow in its complexity. An AI for an AI does not make the whole world blind, as it turns out. We need it to defend against what it can cause. So if you do have any questions for us as we move towards the final few slides of our presentation, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat. We will be happy to address them. We always like to highlight our clients and our partners. Hopefully, some folks from the lovely Webull team are in attendance today, and we have a great case study out with Webull from which this quote was grabbed out on the Verif website. So feel free to check it out. Webull is a super exciting, very fast-growing fintech company in the kind of over-the-counter trading, wallet, crypto space, expanding really fast across the world. And we've been working together for years now. Financial companies see a lot of fraud, especially those who grow really fast and aggressively and have awesome marketing because it reaches far. You might recognize Webull from the Brooklyn Nets jerseys and very high reach places like that. And so Webull and others have seen a lot of value in customized rules, in using live capture and selfie collection and analysis to defend against fraudsters who are just submitting documents, for example, and things like that. And as Brendan, the CRO at Webull, called out in our case study, providing Webull users with a safe and secure platform has always been a top priority at Webull, and Verif has helped us to do so. Compared to previous partners, Verif has been able to support us in identifying fraudulent activity accurately and effectively, even as platform user numbers climbed, which is always a good thing. So with that, I'd like to understand kind of our panelists' key takeaways and predictions. I will go last. Again, if you have questions from the audience, please submit them and we will happily get to them. Lizzie, why don't we start with you? What are your kind of key takeaways and predictions, maybe takeaways from the past 6 or 12 months as this technology has exploded in usage and popularity? And what are your predictions for the next 1, 2, 3, 5 years?
Yeah, I think like AI is here to stay. I think we all understand that it has been growing, but there has been huge bump on generative AI and large language models also in the past year or so. So I think it is here to stay and get better, unfortunately, so to maybe us. But at the same time, if we start thinking about that, it creates more and more kind of traffic online where you don't know whether it's a human or whether it's a deepfake. So I would say it's a great time to start using ITV products, because we are here to help you guys in figuring out who are you really talking to. So I think it's a really crucial place where we are today, right now, especially looking at the trends and especially as more and more communication overall is moving online into that world. And I think at the end of regarding fraud, it will be always a cat and mouse game. So always will be we will be on one side and fraudsters will be on the other side, and we will always try to catch them to make sure that we are catching all different new fraud that is coming in. The trends are changing. They're changing really quickly every month. So we need to make sure that we are on top of our game.
So I would say from my side, I think one of the key takeaways is, given this is a new trend and given a lot of services moving to online, there's a lot of education that needs to really happen at just a person-to-person, business-to-business level, right? Educating and having conversations with customers and just people to understand how are they looking at their risk mitigation when it comes to identity verification, and moving towards more advanced and newer technologies, moving away from analog to digital, right? We sort of made that shift. And how I look at analog and digital is, analog is using static uploads of images, asking knowledge-based questions, all those things that are very easy to fraud nowadays. I mean, it's very easy to understand, security questions of, what was your first high school? What was your first car? Because to my earlier point, we've already put everything about our lives online. So it's very easy to find this information out. So I think we're beginning to move away towards those old ways of verifying and validating people just because of how unsecure they've become. And my predictions are going to be more towards an increase of biometrics, of iris scans, of really different sort of multimodal systems out there. I mean, we've seen it in the way that we just unlock our phones, right? We went from a passcode to a fingerprint to biometric. What's next, right? And you're seeing this shift of how we're able to verify ourselves because of sort of how technology is advancing. And it's a good thing in a way too, right? We're always constantly creating new technology to then create more technology to fix the problems from before. That's just the human cycle. But as more of those services are used broadly, people will become more comfortable, more familiar with them. And I think that's my prediction for where I see the industry moving. And it's really exciting for us to be at the forefront of that, and many other companies working to really solve this ever-evolving challenge.
Well said. I think from my end, and then we'll move into a couple of questions here. From my end, something, I've been thinking about this a lot recently, I think as we all are, and, I had a great discussion at SBC with some other panelists, which was great to hear perspectives from FanDuel and Fiserv and other experts in the space. One thing that comes to mind for me as kind of a takeaway is not to forget about the honest user and overcorrect. And that is really, really hard to do. It's a balance that we're proud to have struck with many of our enterprise and strategic clients, and I'm sure with our SMB and mid-market ones as well. But oftentimes erroneously declining an honest user is far more expensive than accidentally approving a deep fake. We never want to do either, but overcorrecting and starting to turn folks away who might be great customers and users of your business just due to fear is a really dangerous mistake. And it's a balance that we're well used to attacking collaboratively. On the other hand, don't underestimate fraudsters, and especially their creativity. I think we saw it really clearly with the OnlyFakes snafu. None of that technology was really concerning to us at Verif. It was easier to access. Maybe it raised the volume of submissions by a point or two. But it was marketed as Gen AI because the media, for understandable-ish reasons, likes to demonize AI. And people are very scared of it, which it's novel to the general public, and it makes sense. You can piggyback on that marketing power by just calling something Gen AI, and in turn increasing fraud rates and attempts. So we can't ever underestimate the folks that are trying to slip through the cracks as well. In terms of predictions, I think the world is moving towards mobile driver's licenses and more digital identity documents, so to speak, or document replacements. Like Vinny said, there will be an increase of the usage of biometrics. I think folks are more comfortable with that now. I'm sure a lot of us have global entry or have literally walked into an airport, because if you have, your biometrics are getting scanned, even if you don't actively agree to do so. And we'll see more passive systems like that. I think network and device analytics and cross-links will only get deeper and more important in the background. There's, as I mentioned at the outset of our presentation, many different ways to catch a deep fake, most of which have nothing to do with the actual image itself. So we have a couple of questions from the group. I'd like to start off with one for, I guess, Lizzie or Vinny. Either of you feel free to take this one. Are there mainstream tools out there today to deepfake in real time that you've seen through your work at Verif or that you know about? I think an example would be that fake CFO that we talked about early on, but do either of you have experience in that realm?
So I can talk about from the document side a little bit more, that like I mentioned, that they are generating documents in bulk. So what we can see is, yes, in the maybe not open market, but black market, there are tools how to generate basically documents. So they are selling them in basically the templates of different kind of documents. And you can just download it to your Photoshop and change some names and start generating. So it's not even too expensive what we have looked at. So you mentioned OnlyFakes. So OnlyFakes is one of the sites doing one-by-one document generation. So maybe you cannot get the template yourself, but you can generate the documents one by one if you want to. So that these are the trends we can see from the document side today. So we're keeping eye on those always to make sure that we are on top of it.
Yeah, and from a video perspective, there are a lot out there. With the availability of sort of open source technology, it has allowed people they have to compete for space too. because there are good use cases to leverage, deepfake videos, and you're actually beginning to see that a lot with marketing. There's a company, Synthetista, I believe I'm saying it correctly, that specializes in creating deepfake videos for people so that they can use it from a marketing perspective. It can use your existing face or some avatars that they already have of people. You give it prompts. I mean, probably the one that we're all most familiar with, you would think of as like Snapchat, right? People have actually been able to use sort of really low code Snapchat face swaps, do a pre-recorded video, then have some injected media software to sort of inject that into a payload in real time as you're getting verified. So there will continuously be more and more out there. Some are more advanced, and some are tools that enterprises can use for their own purposes, but with any technology that's out there, of course, it can be used negatively. So it's kind of a balance that you have to think about. And I mean, even you could say my virtual background on Zoom is a form of video editing in real time that we have right now. So it's probably only a matter of time before Zoom has some face overlaying stuff, and maybe I can steal Abe's face and pretend to be him on a customer call and see if I can see how far that gets me.
Dream big, Vinny. You're welcome to borrow my face anytime you. Awesome, great answers. Lizzie, a question for you. Vinny, feel free to chime in as well. How is Verif? I know we've touched on this, but it'd be cool to get kind of a comprehensive answer. How is Verif overall using AI to fight AI?
Yes, so of course we like I mentioned, we have our own automatic systems, and this is built on kind of machine learning models. So a lot of the times we are relying on computer vision, so really looking at the pictures and videos that we are getting inside to our system. So this is one layer of the fences that we have. So it's not just multiple models looking at different aspects on the photos. And this is where we are relying a lot also on the humans we have in-house that are really knowledgeable about documents, about the faces, about identity verification. So we rely on the internal know-how to build these kinds of machine learning models. But what we can see also more and more, so we are going together with the trend and growing with the trend, is that we are relying more on anomaly detections and making sure that we look on the photos and all the different kind of data that we have, rather than always relying on humans to know what's the right answer, to figure out whether there are some strange patterns happening overall. So you can see that the face, for example, face picture doesn't look, it looks strange. It looks similar to all the other kind of faces, or the structure of the picture looks similar. So we are more also moving into looking and unsupervised learning, if we talk about machine learning terms. So to rely those aspects more to make sure that fraudulent elements, face edges, document edges, signatures, all of this can be detected by anomalies.
Fantastic overview. Thank you. With that, I think we'll wrap it up for today. Give everyone a few minutes to have some lunch, or if you're on the Pacific time zone, maybe some breakfast, or anywhere in the world, Lizzie, dinner for you. But thank you, Vinny and Lizzie, for your time today. This was super insightful. I hope it was useful for all of our attendees as well. Thank you to the Verif marketing team for setting this up, and we'll be continuing this series with more kind of in-depth sessions on more cohesive elements of our fraud platform, what we see in our annual reports, what we see in our incoming submissions, what our clients see, how we get better every day. Fraud moves really fast, and that means we need to as well. And of course, if there's anyone out there that is concerned about deepfakes getting into your system, if you've struggled with certain aspects of the digital identity verification ecosystem, if you want more visibility into your metrics, or you'd like a more kind of complex one-stop shop system that can build that moat around your castle. As we said earlier, you can always feel free to reach out to the Verif team. We're constantly building, we're constantly getting better, and we'd love to hear from you, even if you're not using our platform, what you'd like to see from providers like us and how we can help you make the internet safer and grow your business. So with that, I'll let everyone go. Vinny and Lizzie, thank you again, and we will talk soon. Hit us up with any questions. Have a great rest of your day and Friday Eve.
Bye
Thanks,
bye.
everyone.
Hope
Bye,
see you.
everyone.